Good morning, everybody. So I recognize that it is 6 a.m. on the Pacific Coast and it's 9 a.m. on the East Coast. It's also Saturday, and it's, for some of us, like myself, the beginning of summer. Others are, of course, waiting until Memorial Day, which is next, not this coming Monday, but the following Monday here in the States, as the unofficial official start to summer, before they call it that. But it is officially summer for me, and I'm really hopeful for a lot of stuff this summer. So I know that I promised you guys that we would talk about some stuff, and we'll get right into that. Just a reminder that live, this is just for the members, but after we're done, I'm going to let it sit for maybe 2 hours or so, maybe a day, we'll see. And then I'll put it on the channel for any subscriber or anybody that doesn't subscribe to see and kind of catch up with us too. So first things first, outside of it being summer, yay, Pages for Ages, the book club, will definitely be coming back. I am so excited. That was something that I really wanted to do. If you guys remember, not the whole reason it was created, but a big chunk of the reason that it was created was because I got kicked out of the book club that I was a part of, and I weaponized a cupcake, and she is very lucky, several of those women, but that particular individual is very lucky. The only thing within my grasp at the time was a cupcake, because it would have been not good. I think it would have gone horribly, horrifically not good at all, for me specifically. But honestly, I don't care. You can say whatever you want to me about me, but when you bring up my kids, all bets are off. So she's lucky she only got a cupcake square to the face. But such is life, such is the nature of the beast. I'm really excited. I'm trying to figure this out. I swear, I'm not doing this on purpose, but it's been a hot minute since I've done a poll. There we go. So if you're watching this as a member live, I think it's just Adiga and Cybot. What's going on, guys? You're gonna get to vote twice, I guess. So I'm gonna drop in the chat. I swear I'm typing as fast as I can. 2 choices for our first book back. If you guys remember, we really wanted to stick to like adventure and fantasy because I don't even really know what to describe that other book club, but it sort of devolved into like a gossip, cliquey, smut book situation. I don't know how many of you guys remember, but it was, I still see, like, I'm not bitter. I'm not, but like the insults, they cut pretty deep, you know? So it's stuff that even, you forgive, you move past it, but it comes up, especially when you start talking about it. The way that book club worked was, we were supposed to, it was supposed to be a non-smut zone. Like, we were supposed to get together to read classic literature, even classic romance. There were several people like really loved Jane Austen. And I know for the time she was very risque, but by today's standards, I mean, she's vanilla, I guess would be what the kids say. But we're supposed to be able to present the books that we would like to have considered for the next book club, and everybody votes on it, and we can, voice any concerns or whatever. That ended up becoming a very bureaucratic BS situation. And because the girl that came in, and she brought another girl with her, but the girl that came in was a friend of the president of our book club. They were like childhood friends. And then the girl she brought, which the two of them were the ones that I threw the cupcake at. But they really wanted to read A Court of Thorns and Roses. I still can't believe that's the title. But for those of you that don't know, I gave the book in my defense, I gave the book a chance. I had no idea what it was. The selling point for everybody else was that if you love Game of Thrones, you're going to love this book. Well, first of all, the books are called A Song of Ice and Fire, not Game of Thrones. So that was already a red flag. I mentioned that, and they were like, no, that's what we meant. And I was like, okay. And we, I was like, all right, well, I've watched all of 10 minutes of one episode, and I didn't like the episodes at all. And I couldn't get past chapter 1 of the first book. I just found it not in my style at all. I like, honest to God. And my husband, really big into A Song of Ice and Fire books. He has his Song of Ice and Fire books his collection rivals some of my collections. And he is much more of a audiobook consumer or reader. And I am much more physical. So the fact that he has a book set that rivals some of mine, that's impressive on its own. And that's going to be important here in just a second. I'll re-reference that in just a moment. And I couldn't get into it. And so we did that meeting. The book came, we came through the book or whatever, and I didn't read the whole thing. I didn't have to. It wasn't good. It was everything that we as a book club had agreed what we weren't going to do. There was so much smut. Like, there's a difference between, I found this out the hard way. There's a big difference between romance and smut. And the fact that smut gets classified under romance to, I guess, help these women with their denial about the fact that they're sexually frustrated. Yeah, it's just kind of, just if you enjoy reading smut, just say you enjoy reading smut. I don't like, if you're that ashamed of it, then maybe you shouldn't be reading it, in my humble opinion. But for whatever reason, it gets classified as we talked about this before in book clubs, but it's like a subgenre. So you have romance as the main genre, then the subgenre is technically called erotica, and then underneath that you have several subgenres, and then under those subgenres, and it's like a crevice of debauchery as you go down. It's just not a good. I don't recommend following that trail. It takes you to dark places. So it was very much everything that we had agreed not to do. And one of the things with that book club was, if we started a series, we would the series had to be, so to start a series, the series 1 had to be a complete series so that you don't run into a Song of Ice and Fire situation. But also it couldn't be more than 2 books, because then that's, or 3 books, sorry. It couldn't be more than 3 books. It's been a while. Because then it, not necessarily, like, we weren't reading new books, we weren't really expanding, and that would have been 3 months worth of book clubs unless we wanted to meet bi-weekly. It still would have been about 3 months, but maybe we'd have been able to get a little bit further. But it's hard because the thing that I really wanted to do was I wanted to introduce some of these ladies to, like, the Dresden Files, because that technically, like, because you have standalone novels, even though they're within a universe or a series, like a world, you don't necessarily have to read them in order, but you should start with book 1, right? Situations like that. I mean, it's not like I was trying to get them to do the King Killer Chronicles or Stormlight Archives or anything like that. No, not at all. But we had these rules in place, and I don't know how many books A Court of Thorns and Roses has, but I'm pretty sure it's like 4 or 5. And so it already broke that rule. It broke the no smut rule. And it was essentially strong-armed by the book club president because it was her friend. And it was just really unfair. I voiced my concerns when we went to the follow-up one where I threw the cupcake and was ceremoniously booted out of the book club because apparently I had changed. But when I was like, no, this book was terrible, this book was awful, it was not good, it was not well written, I didn't even finish it. I attempted to give it a chance, but it was just like you could see what it was leading to. I said, I guarantee you the next book is going to be much more graphic excuse me, than this one. And that's not, like, this isn't a smut book club. This is a book club. And it was like, okay, well, then you're out. I was like, all right. That book club did not last long, as we've talked about. So, you guys chose Redwall. I am stoked. Hey, D-Day, I didn't see you come in. Yeah, I bought those mass books. That's right, that's her name. They're just not good. I am also tired of everything being compared to Game of Thrones. And it's very misleading. So we're going to do the first Redwall book. It is a great series, Cybot, but hopefully, so the plan with this is we'll read the first one, and then we will be able to, like, from there, you guys can sort of jump off into the series, but we won't necessarily stick with this series. I am trying to stick to the rule of duets or trilogies, just because I know it's much easier for a lot of people to sort of take that and roll with it, for lack of a better word. Let's see. So we'll do the very first Redwall book for, well, that's what you guys voted for. excuse me, I'll put it out on the member stream, and then in community I'll put up a poll. I think I can do that in community, maybe not, I don't know, I have not fiddled enough with stuff. Yes, no, I can do a poll. So I'll put a poll up in a post up in community, and we'll let other people vote, and then maybe we'll get some more members and we'll have some great chit chats. And the book clubs are some of my favorite. As you guys know, I'm a huge book nerd. The amount of books I've read in my life borders on unhealthy, but I'm okay with it. I've also watched a lot of movies in my life. I mean, it's very much the whole, like, we have that home situation. But I remember so many good nights, just, Friday or Saturday night, we'd rent 2 or 3 movies. Cousins would come over for a sleepover. We'd go over to their house, and we would just watch really great movies. And my mom, she had really good taste. She introduced me to Star Wars and Indiana Jones, and, my love for adventure pop culture, I think, started there, because I fell in love with the Lethal Weapon films after that. And it's just good stuff. And it just brings a smile to your face, like good memories, you know what I mean? Like when you bake with mom, or you go out and do yard work with dad, or you're in the garden with either one of them. Except my dad was really focused on how and when you pulled the weeds, because if you left the weeds too long, they'd get too big and they'd choke out, especially root vegetables. But if you got the weeds too early, they didn't aerate the soil enough. So he would always let the weeds get to a certain size, and then he'd make us pull them because it would aerate the soil. And I thought he was crazy, but it actually worked. So that was, like I said, I still learn stuff from my parents. Who am I saying? But it's, it's just great that I still have a wonderful family, even if they are 1,000 miles away. So that is all the fun stuff. And then, as I said, my husband's Song of Ice Fire collection rivals my own. And this was a very good thing. If you guys remember, almost exactly 2 years ago, we were supposed to do a Nostalgic Nirvana. That was my Thursday night show, which will be coming back as well, by the way. And that's where we just talk about good films and good shows and good books and stories that we can get into, and games that we can get into today. We don't have to accept the modern derivatives. So, like I was saying, hubby's books, he's much more of an audiobook consumer, or reader, and I am much more the tactile book person. But his A Song of Ice and Fire collection rivals my own. And almost exactly 2 years ago, I had to cancel the show because I had gotten a phone call. So I am going to preface this with, if you are sensitive about illnesses or anything like that, just prep yourself. My husband had called me and said, "Sweetheart, I think I pulled my groin. I'm in a lot of pain, and I can't really walk, and it hurts." And I said, "Okay, well, like, what do you want to do?" And he goes, "Well, I guess I'm gonna go. My VA appointment is at 11 a.m. this morning, and it's like 8 in the morning." He's like, "I guess I'm just gonna go early and see what they say, and maybe they can, prescribe me some pain medication or something. Then I can just go home and ice it. He worked a very high labor intense job. He was a chemical plant manager for a chemical manager for a water plant. There we go. I always fuck that up. But he had to climb up and down like 80-foot water towers on the regular, right? And he had to haul huge bags of stuff. So him pulling his groin, we were like, okay, that's totally possible. So he goes to his VA appointment. His primary pulls him back early and, does some type of I don't think it was an ultrasound per se, but they put the little stickies on his leg and they were like, if it's a pulled groin, this should give you instant relief. It didn't. It made it worse. And so his primary is like, you may have a testicular torsion, which for the men who probably know what that is, I learned what that was that day. It's apparently the testicle can twist inside of your sac. It can twist and it causes extreme pain, obviously. And you have to use a specific machine to undo it. So his primary is like, okay, I'm going to send you to Dallas. So you can either wait 2 weeks to go to the ER or to the hospital that's, so many miles away because they don't have the equipment, or I can get you to this bigger hospital in either Dallas, Fort Worth, Oklahoma City, or I forget the hospital in Arkansas. But hubby chooses OKC because it's technically a closer drive. So hubby goes to Oklahoma City. He goes into the VA hospital there. They already know that he's coming, so they have a wheelchair. They wheel him back because they don't take anything to do with reproductive organs. They have to take incredibly seriously. Found that out too. Anytime you come in and you have spotty vision, a hard time breathing, or anything to do with reproductive organs, you are immediately rolled back. And they got the machine out, and the doc is like, well, if it is a testicular torsion, right? It has to be just the tendon because the testy itself, it feels fine. So hubby was like, okay, what do we got to do? And the doc's like, well, we're going to have to get the ultrasound tech in here to see exactly where the tendon is twisted because we're going to have to do minor outpatient surgery to get it rotated. I'm getting all this secondhand, by the way. So it went from a pulled groin to a testicular torsion to a testicular tendon torsion, right? Hubby is texting me and updating me as it happens. And I'm like, okay. Well, then he calls me and I was like, what is this about? So while the ultrasound tech was looking for the tendon, he and my husband, because they were both Marines, they're smoking and joking and, laughing, all that stuff. And the ultrasound tech was like, that's what you get for, swinging this big thing around. And hubby was like, yeah, I'm going to have to be more careful with it. And then they're chuckling. And then all of a sudden the ultrasound tech goes dead quiet and he walks out of the room. And my husband says, in that moment, he knew that this was not a good situation. Then he came back with oncology, urology, and a general surgeon and one other guy. I can't remember. And they all confirmed that it was not a pulled groin or testicular torsion. It was, in fact, stage 4 testicular cancer. And they had to do emergency surgery within the next 12 hours. So that's why Nostalgic Nirvana got canceled that night and hasn't really returned. That's also why, like, my video / streaming schedule has been sporadic, to say the very least. My life has sort of been chaos the last 2 years. So they did the emergency surgery, and they got it all out. The testicle was completely calcified. And they noticed that the cancer had already, I mean, it was stage 4, so they had so the human body is an amazing thing. Testicular cancer, especially while the type he has is very aggressive, it's also very treatable. It's actually the most treatable testicular cancer that there is. And it's one of the most treatable cancers that there is, which we were very thankful to hear until you hear the treatment. And sorry. That was a lot to take in, especially with 4 little ones. I mean, gosh, all of our kiddos were under the age of 10 when this happened, and we got this news like 3 weeks before our oldest's birthday. So the doctors, when they took out the testicle, it was completely calcified. And they had noticed that it had definitely started to travel, but they didn't know where. Obviously, this was just emergency surgery to get the source of the cancer out. With a lot of testicular cancer, especially if you catch it in stage 1 or 2, a lot of times they can remove the source and it hasn't spread. It didn't metastasize anywhere else, and the body sort of self-contains it. Like I said, human body is an amazing thing. But cancer is a shitty fucker. And it follows the path of least resistance. So it had followed his lymph nodes and it had metastasized to his abdomen. And it was encroaching on his liver and his kidneys and his stomach. And the one they were really concerned about was the stomach. Because when it gets there, like, you know, the liver and the kidneys, it's obviously not good when it gets there, but they're meant to filter shit out, if that makes sense, literally. And so they can take, the way that this was described to me with this particular cancer, the liver and kidneys, like, it takes longer. But if it hits the stomach or the lungs, which it was also close to, it gets in the digestive tract. Like, it takes everything. It goes so fast from there if it gets to the stomach or the lungs. And they noticed that it was very close to his spine. It was all over his abdomen, but it had not, while it had metastasized to his abdomen and it was stage 3, it had not metastasized to any of the organs in the abdomen, which is a fucking miracle, quite frankly. You'll have to excuse me. There's going to be a lot of cussing. So, we got that news after the surgery. Like, so they did the surgery. They were like, hey, we can tell that this has traveled. He needs to come in first. He needs to recover from the surgery, and then he needs to come in for scans. And that's when we got the news that it had followed the lymph nodes, because that's the path path of least resistance. And they said this is really common with this type of cancer. It is very aggressive. We're lucky we caught it when we did, that whole 9 yards. So after he had recovered from the I don't even know what it's called, the testicular removal surgery, he had to go in for scan. That was they were like, we're gonna wait about 5 days. So we waited the 5 days. Went in. They told us that it was in his abdomen and it was all over the place. And it was in his retroperineum. So they were going to have to perform retroperineum surgery. They said that it usually takes 6 to 7 hours. It took 13. My husband is, 6'4", 280 pounds. So he is a big guy. Always been very strong. Always been very capable. And really fucking stubborn. So it took 13 hours to do the surgery. They had to go in with robots. So there's 2 ways that they can do this now. And luckily it's lucky, like, this is how you know God definitely has a hand in stuff. Oklahoma City had at OU Medical, which, by the way, props to OU Medical. They were amazing. They had a robot specifically for this surgery, and they were only one of 3 places in the world that has it. The other one was in, I think it was New York City, but the third one was in Germany somewhere. So Oklahoma City was the only other place that this robot existed, because when they had to used to do retroperineum surgery, they cracked you open from stem to sternum. For those of you that don't know, that means pubic bone all the way up to your rib cage. And essentially they pull your all your organs out, lay them on your chest, and then cut everything out that way. And the recovery and the scars, it's awful. It's terrible. This robot makes between 4 to 8 incisions, and they're very small, and it goes in that way, and it essentially fries the lymph nodes and pulls them out. And when he got the surgery, this was after so we went back 3 weeks later. They were like, you need this surgery. And hubby was like, okay, let's do it. Well, his doctor was like, first we're going to see if we can get this because it hasn't metastasized to any organs, we're going to see if we can get this with chemo. And he was like, because you're young, and because you're strong, and because you have really thick bone density, which I didn't know about my husband, but it doesn't surprise me, we are essentially going to give you a year's worth of chemotherapy in 13 weeks. So that meant no off weeks. And it was a week of chemo Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And then Monday. So his short week where he'd only have to do it on Monday. And then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So did that. The surgery had been scheduled for 2 weeks following that, because they said if we wait till the end of treatment to schedule you for this surgery, it's going to push the surgery too far out, especially if you still need it. So we had the surgery scheduled. He did the chemotherapy. I don't know how to explain this to you guys outside of my husband smelled like death. Like if the Grim Reaper had a smell, I think that's what it would be. Like there was just this cloud all the time. Even on his short weeks, he was tired. And I mean, I wasn't going anywhere, obviously, but I can see why cancer destroys marriages. It's hard because I mean, first of all, when people are in pain, like stuff gets said or stuff gets, like not anything that's meant, but they're in pain all the time. And when you have, I mean, we live in a very small, I mean, there's 6 of us. So you got to imagine we have 4 small children and we are in a 1,300 square foot home. And I'm being kind of generous with that, but we live in a 1,300 square foot home. 4 kids, all under the age of 10. And he was so tired all the time and he was in so much pain. And it was rough. So we did the 13 weeks of insane chemo. And it didn't get it all. And they said your options are more chemo with radiation, or you can do the surgery and you might need radiation following the surgery, but it's unlikely because it did kill, the chemo killed pretty much all of it. And where there were still dark spots, it was more like it was fighting to replicate itself. So for those of you guys that don't know, cancer replicates. It doesn't, it's not like our cells that split and grow. It usually it'll take over healthy cells and replicate. So it replicates itself. It'll take over healthy cells. It'll corrupt the healthy cells reproduction system so that it can spread fat. That's what made this one so aggressive, at least, unless I'm an idiot and completely misunderstood what the doctor was saying, which is entirely possible because, quite frankly, I was still trying to process the fact that my husband had stage 4 cancer and I had no idea. So listen to your bodies, guys. And please, please, please go do your yearly checks. I beg you. But anyway, that was a very long 13 weeks. And the bigger problem that we faced was I had just quit my much better paying job to go teach because the school that our children attended, their teacher, they're the 2nd and 3rd grade, which are combined at the school, their teacher had quit. And rather unexpectedly, it was a week before school was supposed to start, and I said, well, here's my resume, here's my background, I'm willing to step up and take this over. And I got the job. I had just quit my other job and got that news 2 days later. And it's, yeah, I don't know if you guys know this, but teachers don't make a whole heck of a lot. And I was about to become our only income. So I did what my whole family, my grandpa, my mom, my dad, my aunts, my uncles, always told me to do. Just work harder. And so I did. So rather than doing something that was more short-sighted, I was like, well, what can I do? I said, I can't really I was like, live streaming isn't so bad because there's less editing, but like I'm not gonna be able to do like videos, which sucks. As like certainly not as much as I wanted to, because like I had this whole plan, and we make plans and then God laughs. And but I trust, like I appreciate so many people in my life so much more. So I made a phone call and I said, hey, I know it's been a while, and I completely understand if the answer is no. I said, but do you have any part-time work for me? I said, I will do whatever you need, and just point me in the direction, and I will take off and run. And I told them the situation that I was in. And that was, of course, Gary and Melissa. So, huge shout out to both. Like, I will never be able to repay them or thank them properly. For what they did. And I was like, listen, I've got like, you guys know I've got like a research background. I can do this, I can do that. And weaponized autism was put to work. Quarter Black and Perry and X-Ray have all been just incredible. It's the best. It is the best fellowship, the best team. They're so creative and so smart and so capable and just so kind. And they're just amazing to work with. I'm so just floored and humbled to get to work with them every day. Few other people knew the situation. But I am not exaggerating when I say that when Gary agreed to hire me, and Melissa sort of took me under her wing, I'm not exaggerating when I say it kept the roof over our house, or the roof over our head. And it helped put food on the table. It was quite insane. And that is why I missed every meetup until recently. Because I was taking care of my husband and my kiddos and trying to work and make things make sense. And I was trying to do my job as a mother, and we told our children that Daddy's sick, and they could see it. We were like, Daddy's really sick, so we can't hug on him, can't love on him, he can't pick you up. I said, there'll be days when he can hold you or snuggle you, but Daddy can't do the things that he did before. And that's a hard conversation to have, especially when you have a 3-year-old and you've got daddy's girls. Like, I mean, ride or die daddy's girls. And it's interesting to see how things affect girls versus boys. that was really apparent with my nephews too. But that was probably one of the hardest parts because they just wanted to share everything that was going on with them, like, oh, daddy, I got an A, daddy, I got the solo, daddy, I did this, daddy, I did that. And it's just not possible, like he didn't have the energy to say or do anything for or with them. So that was pretty rough. But in lieu of working for Gary, I let a few other people know. I didn't make a big deal about it on any social media platform or anywhere really. Because one, I did not want to exploit a situation, even if, and I'm not saying that people who share that stuff or explain that stuff do exploit it. But it's I do know that there are people who do exploit illnesses and such. And I didn't really want a pity party. I didn't want attention. That's not my thing. That's not my game. But I was still trying to. We all know how the internet can be, especially twit twat. And that's not something that I really. I'm not going to say that I didn't necessarily need advice, but I don't think X is the place to go get that. And I didn't want like a circular, I guess, like a self-feeding pity party. I didn't need my grief reinforced because I was it was grief for sure. A lot of things that hubby and I had planned for the future are not possible anymore. Like more children. We were actually talking about having another. And we were going to go for it. And then all of it happened. And I was like, I think that's God firmly telling us we're going to be stopping at 4. Which, I mean, the children that we have are a genuine blessing. And it's a bummer because they're like, we want another baby. Like, we want another sibling. And I'm like, I'm glad you guys love each other that much that you'd want another. I said, but God's decided that we have enough. And we, as their mom, I've always preached, and dad too. And the kiddos are Catholic. It's a Catholic house with some Southern Baptists sprinkled in there. And so we're very much pro big family, pro family and nuclear family. And I am now more of a proponent of marrying. Like, I married very young. But I mean, not that young. I was 21 when I was 21 when we got engaged. I was 22 when we got married, and then we had a honeymoon baby. And I was 22 when I had our first. So I was 22, 24, 26, and 28. When I had our babies. And then we were like, okay, uh, let's get some stuff in order and then we'll revisit having more kiddos a little bit later. Uh, and because I really wanted like 7 or 9 or, however many I could have. And I look back and, if we had waited, we would only have maybe 1 or 2. Um, so I think, like, yeah, we were young, but we were we were both adults and we both had very similar values. And obviously we were in love, but we talked about before we started dating, he knew where I stood. I didn't he was only my second boyfriend. So like I don't casually I've never casually dated. Uh I had my first kiss when I was 19 and I got married at 22. So like that's just like I don't have a very it's so funny because we'll go to his hometown and he'll be like, "Oh, I used to date her. Oh, I went out with her one time." Like, not like he wasn't a player, but um it's that happens in small towns. Everybody knows everybody and stuff like that. And I was like, man, I got to take out a lot of women. And we chuckle or whatever. And but then we go to my hometown and I'll be like, "Oh, like that's my friend from high school. We were in choir together. We were in band together. I played football with him. Like we were in drama, we were in theater, we were in debate." Like but it's not, "Oh, this is going to be awkward. This is my ex-boyfriend." Like I don't have that conversation. It's like, "Oh, no, no, like these are two people I've slept with and they're going to meet." Like I didn't realize that that was drama that other people dealt with until someone in my own family had to deal with it. And she was like, "Oh my gosh, you're so lucky that you didn't date." And I was like, "Well, it wasn't necessarily by choice. I was just I was so because I did a lot of sports and I lettered in choir for all 4 years of high school, guys. Like I lettered in band for 2 years. I lettered in choir all 4 years. I I lettered in theater. But I also lettered in basketball, track, swimming, tennis, field. I was actually pretty good with the shot put and the long jump. I got a lot of ribbons somewhere. I don't even know anymore. But I was in a very weird place because I was too nerdy for the jocks and I was too jockey for the nerds. Uh so it was a really weird crossover. Um and it was I don't know, I had fun. I had so much fun. But it was just funny because, the the nerds thought that I was too like I was too, they were like, You care way too much about sports and you care way too much about uh like training and you're way too hyper focused on a lot of stuff." Um and then like especially my basketball team, they'd be like, "What are you reading?" And I'm like 7 manga into Yu Yu Hakusho or Sailor Moon or um Latin for dummies. Like I was teaching myself Latin. I'll never forget that. Um or I was reading a World War II history book that's thick as an encyclopedia, and they thought that was weird cuz I mean, they would take out their cameras and cuz not everybody had a flip phone, especially not in BFE, North Dakota. Um we did like smartphones are so wild to me, but we I'm really glad I graduated when I did. A lot of the stupid shit I did as a kid is nowhere on camera or film. Um, but They yeah, so it was it's crazy that all of that the way life sort of unfolds. Um and it actually helped with uh hubby's treatment and surgeries and recovery. Um he, like I said, he did the 13 weeks of no break chemo. Um and that was brutal. And he still needed the surgery. And instead of the the doctor told us that the longest for this retroperineum surgery that he'd ever done was 8 hours. Hubby blew that out of the water by a country mile. Um and it's really hard being in the waiting room and wondering what's going on, and not having any real communication except for the OR nurse who calls in every hour. Well, is supposed to call, roughly every hour to every 90 minutes. Um, there was about a 3.5 hour gap where I did not get a phone call. Um, have not told any other family members this, but he technically died on the table twice. Found that out after. So, for those of you that are wondering what a retroperineum surgery is, it's where they go in and remove all of the lymph nodes that are really big, and so they'll remove the ones they can. They will cauterize the ones that are big enough, and then the ones that are super small, they'll clip. Uh, hubby has 82 clips in his abdomen, and the average is about 30. So he has almost triple the amount of quote unquote clips. And they count them in batches. So when you hear 30, it's 30 batches of clips. I guess I should be more specific. And the batches are 5 clips each. If I am remembering how they broke down the batch count. So he has a lot of clips in his abdomen. And after the surgery, for 3 months, he had to be on a low fat, no fat diet because that's the lymph nodes drain fat, and they would have pooled into his abdomen, and he would have swollen, and then they would have had to do another surgery to pump out all of the fat around it, like that had filled up the cavity, the space. And then he would have had to recover from that surgery. So we were very strict with that diet. And to give you guys an idea of what I mean when I say that, he was allowed to have 15 grams of fat a day, which is the equivalent of 2 egg yolks. 2 large egg yolks. 3 small, 2 large. That's it. So it was lots of lean fish, lots of vegetables, lots of lean red meat. And I found a lot of fat-free recipes and a lot of A lot of interesting ways to flavor stuff because my husband is also a heart patient. He has a stent in his heart from a heart attack that he had that put me into premature labor with our youngest. So that was fun. Um, not by a lot. I was 35 weeks, so we were okay. And baby still came out. Baby still came out 7.5 pounds. I had up until that point, all of my kiddos had been 9 pounders. So had youngest been able to go until due date, likely would have been another 9 pounder. But came out 7.5 pounds. Doctors were shocked because again, 35 weeks. Usually they're like 4, maybe 5 pounds. Nope. Came out at 7.5. So just happy and loving life. That was fun. But because he is a heart patient and now he's also a cancer patient, the dietary restrictions they were interesting. So we got through it. I don't think he ever wants to see cottage cheese or Greek yogurt ever again, or blueberries for that matter. But we got through it. I was meal prepping like a crazy person because I still had to work, but I also had to take care of him full time. So I was running back and forth a lot. I was exhausted. Still am. Because I had to make sure that he had everything, that his medication was being taken on time when he was taking his medication. Like, I have notebooks full of just stuff you would never think that you would have to keep track of. This is gonna be TMI, but like, how often did you go to the bathroom, and what color was everything, and what went into the bowl, and food diaries and all that stuff. And we kept all that information, especially those 3 months, so that when we came to the doctors, first of all, when we walked in, I've never seen a oncologist so happy to like I, do what your doctors say for the most part. Like, when it comes to stuff like this, when it's like post surgery care for cancer treatment and such like that, just really try to stick to what the doctors say. So when they say take it easy, low fat to no fat, don't do anything crazy, don't lift anything heavy, don't, even if you feel better in like 3 weeks because the scars are small and everything like that. Oh, keeping those incisions clean, that was fun. And then like the sutures, so they have to, even though the entrances were small, still had to do care for that. That cream smelled really weird, but it did the job. We walked in, he wasn't septic, he didn't have fatty deposits in his abdomen, he wasn't swollen. Doc was like, I can tell that, you did what you were supposed to do. Which he was very happy about. And that just made hubby's recovery even faster. And he's still recovering. So after the surgery and after dealing with all of that, and, you plans change. And yeah, you can grieve for the plans in the future that you had, but you can't let it stop you from carrying on and finding either new ways to realize those dreams, goals, and aspirations or creating new ones. So we've done a bit of both. And the real snag the real snag is hubby has necropathy from the chemo. I mean, guys, when I tell you they pumped him full of poison, it's not an exaggeration. I I've seen corpses that look better than he did. Um and I'm not kidding. Uh Necropathy, the way that he has explained it to me, because the way that people would describe necropathy would be, oh, it's like that pins and needles feeling in your hand. And my husband's like, that is not what it feels like. He said it feels like molten glass. He's like, but not quite. He goes, it's right before glass turns molten, and so it's shards of glass that are superheated till right before they become molten glass. He said that's what it feels like in his feet. It was in his hands. It went away from there, thank God. But during the surgery, they damaged and like it was a risk we knew going in, because there's a lot they had to remove a lot. He had what was called some no like some guarantees from the surgery would essentially be an involuntary vasectomy, essentially, because they had to remove the nerve that connects, like, that makes everything down there function. So he still has one testicle, and it produces, but it doesn't go in it. Like, it just sort of it's he is now making about a third of the testosterone that he used to, and he can't have children naturally anymore. Like, it's barring a miracle from God, it's not possible for him to have children anymore. So it's called an involuntary vasectomy. And we knew that there was potential for nerve damage with the surgery, because they're pulling a lot of stuff out, and even with the most sophisticated robot hands don't quiver, they don't quake, but you just pull on one of those lymph nodes and it nicks a nerve, and that's all she wrote, you know what I mean? So he has nerve damage in his leg from the surgery, and it'll probably never go away. The nerve will try to regenerate, they told us, and the pain will lessen, but it'll never go away. And the chemo, he lost more than half his bone density on the left side of his body. So he is pre-osteoporosic on his left side. He takes calcium pills the size of like horse capsules, I swear. Because they're like, you're young enough, we might be able to regenerate stuff, like your body might be able to do this, because you were relatively, like, outside of the stint, you were perfectly healthy before, minus the cancer. You're strong, you're young, you're active, you're viral, like we have high hopes for you. But the chemo, he still has necropathy in his feet from it. He had it in his hands, but that went away, thankfully. Bone density is down. His overall, like, just his strength, he's still just really weak and tired. And I don't mean like, I don't mean that he can't do anything, but he do something for a very short time, and then he needs to stop. So that's sort of what we've been dealing with for the past 2 years, on top of everything else. So that's why stuff has been on this channel at best hyper chaotic. I would like to say that Steve Kenobi, Miss Martin Muses, Teresa Martin, like they were Father Miller, have just been really I I love you guys. Thank you so much for uh just rolling with the punches on that one. And then uh our own MVP, Max von Priestley. Um uh Thanks for just being like a rock for hubby and I to laugh with. And just not treating us differently or with kitty gloves. Um, the whole F&T panel, for one, putting up with my weaponized autism, and two, not treating me any differently just because of shit that was going down. The, the the whole panel on F&T, they are really amazing people. Ryan, thank you for continuing to just be you. I really enjoy the banter. And I'm gonna make those topic lists extra freaking long just for you. Jeremy, thanks for just listening. And then there is, Shad and comics and Odin. Well, they were great. Chrissy, you got Chrissy's so fucking funny, guys. She's great. And then there's Az. Similar to Gary and Melissa, I will never be able to thank Az for everything. Az was one of the few people that made my husband laugh while he was going through everything. So I genuinely appreciate everything. Laughter really is some powerful medicine. I wish I could do more than words. I wish there was, but they don't. There is no card. There is no gesture. There's really truly nothing that can sort of repay or just show, pay it forward even, or show the level of gratitude that I have. I wish there was. I would do it in a heartbeat. But nothing for it, I guess. I'm just gonna have to continue to work hard and laugh with them and tell them endlessly how thankful I am for them. Another person who was who's been very understanding and offered, anything you need, just let me know. Critical Drinker. was very, just whatever you need, just if there's anything that I can ever do. And of course, and I know that all of them meant that genuinely. But the thing with stuff like this is a lot of times there's not anything that anyone else can do, just outside of being themselves and being there and letting people know that they're not alone. So, Drinker, I really appreciate it. Especially since it's summer, modding should be much more consistent and easier, especially since it won't be a summer of necessarily me being needed at all times in all places by all people simultaneously, continuously. So I really appreciate that you were so willing to be just helpful and supportive, and that you were just understanding, and hopefully I've been able to be more of a boon than a burden, especially when it comes to modding. But those are sort of the big people that I really need to thank. And then I need to thank you guys. 1, for sticking around. And 2, for just being awesome and patient and considerate, and for having faith in me. Hope the plan, like I said, we make plans and God laughs, but I have a schedule mapped out. Nostalgic Nirvana will be returning. I'm trying to get Disparu to do a stream with me, and Max, and Lethal, because I miss our Sailor Moon streams and our Halo streams. And when I say this, Lethal and Disparu, and Epic Mike, they also knew of the situation, because I told him, I was like, guys, I don't know that I'm going to be able to make everything, but I'm going to try my hardest. When I told him that, and I told them everything that hubby had gone through and stuff like that, Epic Mike's response was, he was like, well, you can't kill a literal god of war. So it's I needed that laugh that day. He doesn't even know. So Lethal and Disparu and Epic Mike, I know that I waited to sort of tell you guys everything that was going on, mostly because, first of all, you guys are so fucking busy, and we weren't doing any shows together at the time, so I didn't want to be like, hey, I'm attention seeking. Again, I just, it's not a fear that people would think it was attention seeking. That's just my mindset of the situation, especially because I was, like I said, still trying to process stuff. And I knew that if I had even attempted to make this more widely known, especially at that point, it was just going to wreck me even more. Like I said, that self-enclosed circle of reinforced grief. I did not need that. So took a long time, but he is officially cancer-free. He's officially on the mend. They have warned us that in the future they will likely have to take the other testicle, because this cancer has a habit of popping back up, and it is very aggressive, especially because, even though they can't officially say that it's service connected, he spent 9 months in Afghanistan next to burn pits full of like chemicals and fecal matter and God knows what else in that burn pit. So there's a highly likely scenario that is what caused it, along with, his heart and a bunch of other stuff. So it's wild to think about all of that stuff now. And I did not cry a whole lot while it was going on, because my granddaddy and my daddy and my uncles and my mom and a bunch of my Marine drill instructors as well, because they read a letter from my grandpa and they reinforced this statement several times. You can cry when it's over. Get through it first and then cry about it. So that's what I did. I have not prayed this much in my entire life. These past 2 years have been full of me praying rosaries, praying Hail Marys, Our Fathers, Hail Holy Queens, Saint Michael the Archangel, the Saint Gertrude prayer for souls in purgatory, like the Glory Be. I've been, and prayers that I was just like making up on my own. A lot of praying. But we both put in, like, he obviously put in way more work than I did. I had a family member ask me, like, don't you hate that he's still just not pulling his own weight? And I about slapped the living shit out of them. It's wild to me. Like, they have no idea how hard he is currently working. They have no idea how strained he is. And like, he has this sense of responsibility and guilt that he has sort of not imposed on himself, but that he's going through. I do everything I can to let him know that is not like his fears or his doubts or his perceived weaknesses about himself. They're not accurate. And we've worked really hard so that our kiddos, because my husband is a mountain of a man and still is to our kiddos. And so we've worked really hard to make sure that they still have that like awe and respect of him and for him. So I do 90% of the yard work and everything like that. But we've done it in such a way that I'll get up real early that day and I'll cut it. And then I'll come in and I'll shower and I'll clean up and wash my clothes right away. We'll put some like grass on hubby's shirt or in his hair or whatever. And then the girls and what like they usually wake up first, but they'll wake up and they'll look outside and they'll be like, "Oh, Daddy cut the grass. We can go play soccer even better now, or we can play football, or we can, tackle football because Mommy needs another heart attack." But they're just like, "Oh, Daddy's having a good day. Daddy cut the grass." When they were at camp, over spring break, day camp, we painted some walls and such, and they came home and they were like, "Whoa, Mommy, did you do this?" And I was like, "Daddy did it. Mommy just helped a little." Stuff like it's the small things, but it has they were like, wow, even though daddy's sick, like he can still do all this stuff. Like he's really strong. And that's really important, especially because he is getting better every day. And I continue to pray that cancer stays far fucking away from us. It's already affected enough people in my immediate family already. So for it to be stage 4 and hit that close to home, I found out what the saying of, you know, I was telling my mom, because she'll do the God only gives his hardest battles to his strongest warriors. And I was like, cool, I'm done being strong. I was like, I'm good. But then I remember, you know, like, who will go? And it's like, here am I. I don't think people realize what they are doing when they say that. But it is very true. And so you just got to remember to stay humble and thankful and grateful and really appreciate the good people in your life and life in general. But as I said earlier, this has made me an even bigger proponent for marrying early, starting a family early, because if we had waited, I probably wouldn't have my youngest two, and I can't imagine life without them. I may not even have my second oldest. I might have just had one. And for someone who always wanted a big family, there was one point where I was like, I could have 13. I got called crazy, but I was like, I could do it. But yeah, I really wanted at least 7, but God was like, nope, 4 it is. So to everybody that knew and was just supportive but not overbearing, and I really do appreciate you guys. Hubby appreciates you guys. I love every single one of you. Hey, Mexican Iron Man. Because this is a private stream, it's not going to pull up chats, but he said, thank you for sharing and trusting us. We love you. I'm sending you sombrero full of well wishes, prayers, and love from your longtime Mexican YouTube buddy, Mike. Thank you, Mexican Iron Man. I really appreciate it. But yeah, it's been wild. And then after hubby got through all of that, I realized just how crappy I had been taking care of myself. Hey guys, just an FYI, if you drink protein meal replacement shakes and you don't go to the gym, you get fat. I put on 65 pounds going through this, and I was basically on a liquid diet because I was like, okay, I'll get like I'll go to the gym. Like I had neglected myself, which isn't fair to my kiddos or my husband. So I have since fixed that. Still nowhere close to where I was or where I want to be, but doing much better. And just recognizing that even if it's liquid, it doesn't mean that it digests any faster, especially when its whole purpose is to bulk. So definitely keep that in mind. So I am definitely working on making sure that I am healthy so that I can be around as long as possible within my, everybody's like, you could get hit by a bus tomorrow. I said, that is true, but I also might not. And I would really like to be able to enjoy, especially because I'm young. Like I am not old, guys. So, to give you guys an idea, I can't even like run for president. That's how young I am. Like not in my 20s anymore. Can't run for president. And yeah, it's just wild, like thinking about everything that has happened and and the way things shake out. So I will tell you right now, there are very few people in this world that are dependable and reliable and that don't crack or break under stuff. So if you can find those people, hold on to them. Oh, Adiga, you have to go. So Adiga says, I need to go, but you have a lot of empathy and whatever support I can give. Well, thank you. I know what you're going through far more than you might know. Enjoy your summer vacation. Well, Adiga, if you are going through anything like this, I am really sorry. And if there's anything I can do for you, please let me know. So I would also like to apologize if people reached out to me for help and I seemed short or it maybe wasn't as fulfilling as you had hoped. I have my limitations too, but I did try to be there for as many people as possible because I knew that I could handle this situation because there was no other choice. You have to. It's, you always have that sort of cautionary, like, for lack of a better word, like that cloud that hangs over you, like, especially when they tell you that it will likely come back. He does have to get scans every 3 months. The amount of medication that man is on just to try and get his body back to a baseline of healthy is wild. But yeah, the plan this summer is to work my ass off, have a lot of fun, spend incredible amounts of time with my kiddos and my husband, and really just appreciate and enjoy life because these last 2 years have been a fucking nightmare, to say the least. So thank you, everybody. And then, so looking forward, yay, new chapter. No, just kidding. Going forward, I am really looking forward to Nostalgic Nirvana, for one. Pages for Ages is coming back. I want to drop... Now, I know this is ambitious AF, but I want to drop a video a week over the summer to kind of give you guys a heads up or a notice. I got a phone call last night. It's serious, like phone calls, right? Got a phone call last night. Our biggest patron. So I teach at a very, very small rural Christian school, and I teach second and third combined. And to give you an idea how small, I have 2 grades that I teach, and I have 14 students in my class. So there's that. So it's when I say tiny, I mean tiny. Well, they said that our biggest patron had passed away and they would be going over the books, but there is a possibility that the school may have to close because we did not get the enrollment numbers that we were hoping for, let alone needed. So we have essentially until August 1st, because that is our fiscal year, to sort of get that enrollment up, or for another patron to sort of swoop in and fill that void, unless there is like something in they said a lot of stuff's up in the air, but there's a chance that I may not have a job come fall. And it's really weird being in this position because, like, if I go look for a new job and I get it and then the school doesn't close, then like, you know what I mean? But if I wait until the new fiscal year and it turns out we aren't going to remain open, that causes a problem because the teaching jobs get filled over the summer usually. So there's not going to be really anything left that way for me. So I'm just going to lean really hard into the YouTube stuff. And continue to pray, and hopefully God will open up. I mean, I know he will. I just hopefully I'm smart enough and awake enough to recognize that that's where he's leading me. So it's going to be a summer of working my ass off and just doing what I got to do, because I mean, if I don't do it, nobody is gonna, right? So there's that. And then for anybody that follows me on Twitter, my water heater just cracked out on me, and a third of my house has no carpet. And the transmission on my vehicle went out. Things happen in threes, so I should be set, right? I should be good. But it's just funny because my principal asked me, she was like, do you need anything? And I was like, yeah, I need a Kit Kat. And she looks at me and I was like, I need a break. And she laughs and she's like, how are you cracking jokes? And I was like, because if you don't laugh, you cry or you die. In the Marines, it was very much, if you don't laugh, you die. So it's been wild. It's been a wild ride. And I'm looking forward to just grabbing the bull by the horns and doing what I got to do. And doing it the best that I can do too, not like a half-ass throwaway kind of situation. So you guys should be getting quite a bit of stuff from me over the summer, and we'll sort of see where it goes. So much, like, as you guys know, as I said at the beginning of this, I am not a Game of Thrones, Song of Ice and Fire, House of the Dragon fan. I have not seen a single episode of House of the Dragon. If Gary tells me I have to watch it, I will watch it. But that universe is just not my bag, if that makes sense. It has never sort of captured me. So Nostalgic Nirvana will definitely be returning. Pages for Ages will be returning. The goal is one video a week. It's gonna be rough at the beginning, guys, so just hang in there with me. And I'll be doing some writing over the summer too. Mostly like there's a short story contest that I want to enter because the prize is $50,000. So I have to read the rules and make sure it's actually something I want to do and it's not like a DEI trap. But we'll see. And yeah, I'm going to be reading with my kiddos, taking them fishing, hiking, exploring. We're going to garden. We are losing. So sadly, come June 1st, the acreage that I've been leasing from a friend, I will no longer be able to carry that, which is a bummer. But I will figure it out. We will garden on our land. It's going to be a much smaller garden. But that's, that we were sort of expecting it. We knew because property taxes have shot way up. So we knew that the lease for the land, we knew it was going to shoot up. And we were like, well, if it stays within this, we could probably do it. And there's just no way. So that's, that's life, and we'll adapt and we'll overcome. And I need to get honeybees, I think. I don't know if you guys know this, but honey makes great money. It's just how much do I want to get stung kind of situation. But no, it'll be good. This will be a good sort of busy, hopefully lots of fun summer. And I expect to try and do, now we definitely have our Pages for Ages once a month, and I'll put the poll up, but I'm shooting for, so I know that I'll be in Dallas, but I can make it work. Like, I'm shooting for June 8th. So I would like to do the second Saturday of every month. I think that that works out really good for people, and it's a good way to kind of it's that good sort of transition for a lot of people to get their month sort of cracking off. So that is 4 weeks from now. So I'll put the poll up in the community on that post, like I said I would, and we'll get a vote for pretty much everybody. Hopefully we'll get some new members too, and we can chit chat that way. But the so we're shooting for the 8th. It looks like it's gonna be Redwall. Remember, your choices are Redwall or Moby Dick. And it'll be the first Redwall book. And then so June 8th, keep that in mind. And I would like to do, outside of Pages for Ages, I would like to do 2 member streams a month at the very least, or a member stream and a member exclusive video. And that is inspired actually by Heel versus Babyface, as his, I don't know if you guys are members of him. If you're not, you should. He has great membership content. And right now he's doing the 100 Days of Accountability. And it's so motivating and incredible and fascinating to watch. So I definitely recommend doing that. If you're not a member with Gary over at Nerdrotic, he's gonna have a ton of House of the Dragon stuff, I think, behind the membership wall, maybe on Nerdrotic Live. I know he's gonna stream with Ryan about the show. And like, you guys don't want to miss that. That is so much fun. And then Quarter Black and X-Ray both, they do member gaming streams, or like member chill streams. We need to, I think that's once a month we'll do like a membership chill stream. I think that'd be a lot of fun, and where we play some games and stuff like that, and it'll be a good time. And that'd be just for you guys. But yeah, lots to do, lots to look forward to. Just keep on pushing. And I love each and every single one of you. I appreciate each and every single one of you. Thank you so much for spending your precious time with me. That means a lot. Time, you can always get money back. You can't get time back. And that is something these last 2 years have, I always knew that, and I always appreciated it, but that has been heavily reinforced since all of this. So with that, I will say thank you very much for everything. I hope you guys are all ready for summer and that it cracks off fantastically for you guys. And truly, from the bottom of my heart, much love. God bless. Godspeed. And I will talk to you later. Bye.